Finding the right yarn for a crochet project can be challenging, especially when making a bag. Some can feel a little too soft, some may stretch over time and lose their shape after several uses. We've tried and tested many types of yarns from different countries, and it's always been very difficult to find a yarn that has the right balance of practicality and sturdiness for a bag, until we discovered Korean yarns. Korean yarn brands have developed a wide range of yarns with different textures and composition, each of them looking polished enough to make your DIY bag look as if they're store-bought. In this video, we'll show you our favorite Korean yarns for bags and why they're worth trying if you love making bags too. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss any of our reviews or tutorials. Before we dive in, we just want to mention that all the yarns and project samples we mentioned in this video are available in our store, either as an individual yarn, pattern, or DIY kits. If you see anything you'd like to try, you can click the link below and shop directly in our store. The first yarn on our list is Cafe yarn, and this one has such a unique character. The moment you touch it, it feels natural, earthy, and made for summer bags. It has a structured feel without being overly stiff. Visually, the yarn is beautiful. It has two-tone look that comes from blending a thicker, paper-like strand with a thinner yarn in a different tone. Even though the texture looks slightly rustic, the colors show up surprisingly well. Shades like red, blue, and green appear very bright and vibrant. When it comes to crocheting with this yarn, Cafe yarn is very easy to handle. It doesn't split much and the stitches glide nicely on the hook. The only thing to keep in mind is that bolder, darker colors may leave a little bit of tint on the hook, so it's worth paying a bit of attention when using the darker colors. And be mindful if you're making shoulder bags or other items that will rub against clothing frequently, as the colors may transfer. The overall vibe of this yarn is quite similar to raffia yarn. It's very summery and very rustic looking, but compared to raffia type yarns, Cafe yarn is less sensitive to tension, which makes it more beginner friendly and easier to crochet with. With raffia yarn, if you mess up the tension a little, the inconsistencies will show in the final piece. But with Cafe yarn, it's relatively more forgiving. Speaking of finished results, we've made a couple of bags with this Cafe yarn, and they usually turn out quite sturdy while still being incredibly lightweight, which is a fantastic combination. The best example is the Summer Week bag. It's a collaboration pattern with a Korean brand called Wool Club. This project uses 10 balls of Cafe yarn, and you can get a free printed pattern for this when you purchase a 10 balls bundle on our web store if you'd like to make one yourself. Even though 10 balls of yarn were used for this bag, the final weight was still lighter than a book, which really shows how lightweight Cafe yarn is. If you're wondering what other types of bag you can make, Cafe yarn works beautifully for anything that needs a firm, well-defined shape. We've also crocheted the pyramid bag, which uses 3 balls of Cafe yarn plus 1 ball of metallic PlayCode yarn. That's another Korean favorite yarn of ours that we'll get into later in the video, but there's also a free pattern package available for this on our web store. But do keep in mind that Cafe yarn is not the best choice for drapey bags like market bags, and it may not be ideal if you plan to attach a zipper, since the yarn feels a bit more paper-like than fabric-like. Moving on to the second yarn, we have Lattan Yarn, which is essentially a raffia yarn. It has a natural earthy summer feel just like all raffia yarns. Lattan Yarn comes in various finishes from matte to semi-glossy to glossy depending on the colors. Even though it may seem like plastic rope at first glance, it's actually not at all made of plastic. It's 100% viscose, made of palm tree leaves. But because of the crispy texture, people mistakenly assume it's plastic and immediately assume it will look cheap. If you take a closer look at the material, it's actually quite thick and it can look luxurious or rustic depending on the design of your project. Many well-known designers' bags actually use raffia yarn for your bags. When it comes to crocheting with Lattan yarn, it can feel a little bit stiff because the yarn is non-flexible. But this is completely normal for raffia type yarns. Because of that, blocking becomes an essential step to get your projects into the proper shape. While we would always recommend blocking your projects after finishing them, some yarns can still get away without it, like the Olio Yarn for example. But with raffia, skipping the blocking step is almost impossible. If you're new to blocking and wonder what the steps are, you can check out the quick tutorial we've made on Shorts for this. Next, to give you a better idea of how this yarn looks once it's made into a bag, we have here our two-way bucket bag, which is available as a DIY kit on our web store. You can see that the structure turns out very sturdy and the basket texture looks very beautiful because Lattan yarn is really great for stitch manipulation and creating defined motifs. We also use this yarn for our coastal sling bag, which has a shell-like pattern. It's almost like a net motif but with a little twist, and the stitches come out beautifully defined as well. This is also another project where we crochet 2 strands together with metallic PlayCode yarn. If you like to make this bag, we have the digital pattern available in our store, which we'll link down on this video. When we wear the bag made of Lattan Yarn across our body, we find that they still feel lightweight, which is great for bags because you wouldn't want to carry something heavy when you're out. Now, in terms of suitable bag types, Lattan Yarn is great for summer-style bags, especially those with mesh or net motifs. It's still sturdy enough to hold its shape, but we don't recommend adding zipper to bags made with this yarn, because with the texture of this yarn, it may tear if punctured repeatedly with sewing needles. So for closure, we usually prefer hardwares like the skiboshi buttons or magnetic buttons instead. Next, let's take a look at another yarn that offers a very different feel, the Olio Yarn. Among the yarns we've tried, Olio has the most drapey character. It has a softer fall compared to the others, but it still has enough weight to hold its shape when crocheted into a bag. What makes Olio yarn stand out is the subtle sheen. It's not shiny or reflective, but it has a soft, gentle finish that gives the bag an elevated look without being overwhelming. On top of that, the colors show up beautifully as well. Compared to the previous yarns, this yarn and the other yarn we've tried called bridge yarn feel the most fabric-like in both texture and appearance, which makes it a great option if you prefer a slightly softer and more fabric-like look for your bag projects. In terms of the crochet experience, Olio yarn is very easy to work with. It doesn't split and it has a smooth, natural feel that's quite similar to working with the cotton yarn. At the same time, it isn't too tension sensitive unlike raffia yarn, so it's more forgiving and easy to crochet with. Stitches made with this yarn tend to come out very defined and polished. For example, when we made the heart bucket bag with this yarn, the heart stitches look clear and the shape holds nicely while maintaining that drapey fabric-like quality. If you're interested in making the heart bucket bag, you can get the DIY kit on our store or the digital pattern version. When it comes to suitable bag styles, Olio yarn works beautifully for everyday bags. Favorite examples is our eyelet tote bag. As you can see, it has that softer drape, it's foldable, and the fabric-like texture makes it very versatile. Because of this characteristic, it's also a yarn that's safe to sew zippers on, since the material won't tear the way Lattan yarn might. On the plus side, since this yarn is very popular in Korea, it's also really easy to find a lot of project inspirations and tutorials online made with this yarn. Now let's move on to the metallic PlayCode yarn, which has become quite popular in the past year. What makes this yarn unique is the glittery effect that really sets it apart from the other yarns we've talked about. The yarn itself is thin, lightweight, and wrapped in a metallic coil, giving it a textured surface and that signature sparkling look. If you look closely at the shades, you might notice that one color stands out more than the rest, and that is the Premium Light Silver. The shine on the Premium Light Silver is brighter and more sparkly compared to the regular Medium Silver or the other colors, which gives it that elevated high-quality glow. It's also coated with antioxidants, which helps the color remain consistent over time, so it won't fade or dull easily even with frequent use. In terms of the crocheting experience, metallic PlayCode yarn does have a slightly stiff feel, but not to the point of being uncomfortable. It's still noticeably softer than raffia yarn, however, because of the metallic coil texture, it might feel a little abrasive if you're used to very smooth yarns. So crocheting for a long time with this yarn might make your fingers a little sore from friction, which is why we highly recommend using a yarn guide ring to keep the yarn running smoothly and to prevent any discomfort. Moving on to the bags we've crocheted with this yarn, we have several original Damira patterns and collab patterns with Wool Club that uses this yarn. Let's start with the collab patterns with Wool Club. This star glitter knit bag still feels casual even though it has that sparkly effect. It uses 2 balls of color A and 1 ball of color B for the star patch. Although we didn't make the star patch here, the original design by Wool Club pattern will have that star patch. It's a great example of how this yarn works beautifully on mesh style bags. Aside from the star glitter net bag, we also have these 2 other bags that's available in our store as a free pattern package, the flower daisy bag and metallic vertical net bag. If you're wondering, metallic PlayCode yarn actually works just as beautifully on fully stitched bodies. A great example is our fairy bag, which has been one of the most popular patterns in our store. You can see how well the yarn holds its shape even with dense stitching, and the metallic finish makes it look really elevated. Same goes for the baguette clasp bag. This bag is entirely made with single crochet using 3 balls of metallic PlayCode yarn, and the result is this sleek structured bag that looks anything but handmade. The digital pattern for both the fairy bag and the baguette clasp bag are available on our web store. So many styles to choose from, we know. Okay, we've checked out 4 awesome yarns, and now it's time to talk about another cool Korean find, the bridge yarn. The yarn itself is tube-shaped and filled with soft polyfiber, giving it that cushiony thickness that feels chunkier and fuller compared to the other yarns we've talked about. Because the outer material is similar to a t-shirt jersey fabric, this yarn naturally has a matte finish. In terms of color options, you'll find fully opaque shades as well as a few with a subtle marl effect, like this light brown or grey, which naturally resemble the look of a real t-shirt fabric. By the way, looking at how thick this yarn is, with the thickness, you might need a bit more effort and hand control to work through tighter stitches or sections with lots of increases and decreases, but overall it's still very manageable. In our experience, it's not difficult to the point of being uncomfortable, and it's definitely easier to work with compared to rope cotton yarn. But that's where the hook choice matters as well. For a thicker yarn like this, we prefer working with Prym Ergonomic hooks, which has a seamless handle to hook joint and a longer shaft. This minimizes the experience of your crochet piece bumping into the handle, which often happens when crocheting with thicker yarns. The Prym Ergonomic hooks also come with a deeper and more pointed hook, which makes it easier to pull your yarn and push through stitches. Now back to the yarn discussion. If you look at the finished result, Bridge Yarn creates some of the sturdiest and most structured bags among all the yarns we show today. But for this bag, we crocheted with 2 strands of yarn held together, and as a result, you can see that it holds its shape extremely well, and the overall look feels very plush and cushiony, almost like a soft doll or pillow. This makes it a great choice if you want your bag to have a fun, playful touch. And since it's padded and cushiony, we've also used this yarn to make laptop and iPad sleeves, which we have available as DIY kits. So it's safe to say that Bridge Yarn is the thickest and most protective option. If you plan to crochet 2 strands together, you can also try using 2 different colors on each strand instead of the same color. For example, in the case of this bridge tote bag, we combine 2 colors and you'll get this really nice marble effect. By this point, you can probably already imagine the kind of projects that suits Bridge Yarn the most. Its casual t-shirt-like texture and strong structure makes it especially great for everyday bags that lean more relaxed in style. It also works nicely for interior or home items such as baskets and organizers, because the yarn is thick, sturdy, and able to hold its shape effortlessly. Just in case you'd like to try any of the Bridge Yarn projects mentioned, we'll share the link for the pattern or the DIY kit below. And finally, let's talk about the last Korean yarn on our list, plain leather yarn, which also happens to be one of the newest additions in our store. This is one of those yarns that immediately feel different the moment you touch it, with a distinct leather-like look texture that gives it a completely different character from the other yarns. But no, it's not a real leather even though the name is plain leather yarn. It still behaves like a yarn, just with a leather-like appearance. When it comes to the color range, it leans mostly toward browns and neutral tones, but you'll also find a few colorful options in the mix. In Korea, there's another similar yarn called instant leather, but plain leather is less shiny and has less coating, so the overall finish is more matte and subtle. Like raffia yarn, this yarn is quite stiff and it does have a bit of rough texture on the surface that may feel abrasive, so it's not the nicest to crochet with. But so far, we haven't found any crochet yarn with this unique look and texture, so we're willing to sacrifice a bit of comfort for how beautiful the result turns out to be. Even though it has that leather-like look, the finished crochet work turns out surprisingly sturdy without feeling heavy. From a distance, it really gives the impression of leather, but when you look closely, especially with the textured stitches, it can even resemble a woven rattan. When it comes to choosing the right project to go with this yarn, we find that it works best for sturdy structured bags. Anything with a solid shape, whether it's oval, rectangular, or boxy. A great example is our leather basket bag, which uses just 1 roll of plain leather yarn. The digital pattern for this project is also available on our web store. And because the final result looks similar to leather, the final bag naturally appears more luxurious and classy. We also have the Prismo bucket bag, another original Damria design made with plain leather yarn using just 1 ball of this yarn. It's a great structured bag project, and the digital pattern is also available on our web store. Depending on the color you choose, lighter shades can give a lovely summer feel, while deeper or cooler tones look perfect for fall or winter styles. It's less suitable for drapey bags like market bags since the yarn itself is quite firm and thick, but it might look good if you're going for a bag style. Lastly, if you plan to add a zipper, it's also possible, but do keep in mind that the material is thicker, so sewing it may take a bit more work. And with that, we've reached the end of our Korean yarn lineup. Throughout this video, you've seen how each yarn brings a completely different personality, from structured and crisp to shiny and textured, all the way to leather-like and cushiony. We hope this gives you a clearer idea of how different Korean yarns perform and what kinds of bags they're best for. There's definitely no one perfect yarn, but each one shines in its own way depending on the style, structure, and finish you want to achieve. But one of the biggest takeaways from these Korean yarns is that most of them are non-stretchy and structured enough to make a great yarn for bags without needing a lining, except open or net-like patterns, where we prefer to use an inner pouch like this, But this is not to prevent stretching, it's mostly to keep smaller items from slipping out. There are still so many more Korean yarns out there to explore, each with their own unique textures and personalities. If you're curious and want us to make a part 2, let us know in the comments and what yarn you think we should try next.